All right, we're live streaming. Welcome back to the ongoing public hearings of the Environment and Transportation Committee. I'm the chair, Kumar. I'm joined by my vice chair, Dana Stein. I have a personal appointment, and a little before 2 o'clock, I'm going to have to leave and turn the reins over to the vice chair. So the bills before us. Oh, Andrea, you're here. Great. So you can present your bill. The bills are going to be in the numerical order, and they will be in this order. House Bill 615, the Prince George's County delegation, Delegate Harrison presenting. House Bill 1134, Delegate Carey. House Bill 1135, Delegate Chisholm. House Bill 1146, Delegate Hill. House Bill 1207, Delegate Bridges. House Bill 1267, Delegate Henson. So with that, Delegate Harrison, you have the floor for 4 minutes. Welcome back.
Thank you so much, and hopefully I won't need 4 minutes. I'm here for the record, Andrea Harrison, on behalf of the Prince George's delegation to present House Bill 615, Natural Resources, Sunday deer hunting in Prince George's County. Essentially, this is very similar to all of the other Sunday hunting bills that we've had. This was originally presented by, at the time, it was Delegate Michael Jackson, who is now Senator Michael Jackson, which is why I am stepping in pinch hitting for him. Essentially, this bill would allow Sunday hunting in Prince George's County, and it's pretty much for the southern part of the county, although the bill only indicates Prince George's County. I do believe that there were some amendments that were suggested for this bill, and they, on line 5, on page 5, after line 16, the suggested amendment reads, except as provided in paragraphs 2 of the subsection, a person other than the owner or occupant while hunting for any wild bird or mammal may not shoot or discharge any firearm or other deadly weapon within 150 yards known as the safety zone of a dwelling, house, residence, church, or other building or camp occupied by human beings, or shoot at any wild bird or mammal while it is in this area without specific advance permission of the owner or occupant. The second one is a person while hunting for any wild bird or mammal may not shoot or discharge any firearm within 300 yards of a public or non-public school during school hours or at any time when a school activity is taking place, and for archery hunters in Calvert County, Carroll County, Cecil County, Frederick County, Harford County, Montgomery County, Prince George's, St. Mary's, Washington County, or Prince George's. The safety zone described in paragraph 1 of this subsection extends for 50 yards from a dwelling, house, residence, or church, or any other building or camp occupied by human beings. That pretty much is the bill. Is just to allow the Sunday deer hunting in Prince George's County with some provisions that says that you can't go in a, within a certain distance of a unit. So that's the extent of the bill. Thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to present on behalf of the Prince George's County delegation.
Okay, we have nobody signed up in favor of the bill. So if there are any questions for the sponsor of the bill, Delegate Jacobs, there you go.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Harrison, I noticed in the bill it says in the paragraph it says department may allow a person to hunt on public land designated for hunting on Sunday in Prince George's, and then I looked at the testimony from DNR, and it says currently there are no public lands in the county open to deer hunting at this time. And then it goes down further to say there are no such lands that could be open under existing law. So that portion of the bill, which seems to be cause the committee some angst about public land hunting, really doesn't apply under this bill. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Sure.
Okay, then.
Asked and answered. Okay. Any further questions for the sponsor of the bill? Seeing none, we'll proceed to the opponents, all of whom will be given 2 minutes. They are Christy Claggett, Leslie Long, Nicole Lapoint, Carolyn Lee Brand, Zakiah Bradshaw, and Ann Bowie Rice. So we'll begin with Christy Claggett, and Leslie Long will be on deck.
2 minutes.
Christy, are you out there? Okay, we'll go to Leslie Long. Hopefully Christy will show up. Leslie, are you out there?
I
Yep.
am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you and see you. Welcome back to the committee.
Thank you. My name is Leslie Long, and I live in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. I've been a resident with Prince George's County for over 30 years. My husband and I own a 36-acre horse farm, and our property is surrounded by farms which are hunted during deer season. My husband is also a deer hunter and participates in bow, muzzleloader, and shotgun seasons. This means that from September to the end of January, the only days I can trail ride or walk on my own property is on Sundays. If this bill is passed, I will be unable to use my own property for 5 months unless I stay right around my house. I don't worry about my own husband since I know which days he doesn't hunt, which really aren't very often, but I do worry about the surrounding properties. I do not feel safe riding my horse or walking my dog due to the chance of mistaken identity or even poachers. I'm also a member of the Marlboro Hunt Club, a fox chasing organization. Sundays are the one day that we can still find places to hunt where we're not competing against deer hunters. If this bill is passed, we will effectively be shut out from hunting in Prince George's County. And unlike deer hunters, we do not carry guns, so don't pose a threat to the general public. I also rent a small apartment through Airbnb. The renters come here for various reasons, but lately many are looking for a place to work that also allows them to enjoy the peace and quiet. They love to walk through the property, but I have to tell them they can't go in the woods during the fall except on Sundays. With COVID, more and more people are eager to be outdoors in our parks. The parks in the area are allowing deer hunting already. Would this mean Sundays would also be permitted? Is the safety of Prince George's County residents less important than a few deer hunters? I would also be curious to see how many deer hunters even reside in Prince George's County, or would they be coming from surrounding areas? I agree that there are plenty of deer in the county, but a better solution to the problem would be to examine the current policy on development and urban sprawl. The deer are being pushed out of areas due to unchecked development. Maybe this could be a solution instead of allowing a small percentage of our population to monopolize our open space from September.
Okay, thank you very much. Dana, take the con.
All right, so Nicole Lapoint, are you in the house?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, welcome. You've got 2 minutes.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Nicole Lapoint. I've lived in Brandywine for 22 years, and I've enjoyed growing up in our rural area and everything that it has to offer. My family and I ride horses, and we often go out on Sundays with them, knowing that that's a safe day to do so. As someone who enjoys both exploring the outdoors and riding horses, being able to move freely and safely on Sundays is very important to me. As a mother, ensuring that my children have the time and a place to safely enjoy the outdoors is mandatory. In a world where children are overloaded with multimedia platforms and with all the studies on how too much screen time can be detrimental to their growth and well-being, we all know how important it is for kids to be able to get outside and be active. We complain that kids don't get to get outside and they don't go outside enough, but the reality is that the way society has changed and grown over the years, it's harder for kids to just get out. They can't go next door, they can't meet their neighbors, they can't run around the neighborhood or even walk around the mall without an adult to take them and supervise those interactions. And with work, school, and all other things, time is just hard. So knowing that my my kids have a place to go on Sundays and out with the horses is really very important to me. Do we really want to take one more place in time that kids can be safe away from them? Hunters have 6 other days a week that they can go out and hunt for deer. Thank you for your time today.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, Carolyn Lebrand.
Okay, I hope
Okay.
you can hear me. Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you very much for having this hearing. I appreciate the opportunity to put my input. And I totally agree with what's been said so far, that 6 days a week of hunting is great for culling the overpopulation of deer. But we would like one day when everyone else that uses the woods can feel safe and not have to worry that they're either straying too close to the edge of a park that may have limited hunting, but you know, when you're on the edge of that land and you hear the gunshots, it's alarming. So if there's also 7 days a week, that means, like Leslie said, no day for the rest of the population to enjoy the great outdoors. So I'm against it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, Zakia Bradshaw. Is Zakia Bradshaw in the house?
I'm Zakiah.
Oh, Zakiah, I'm sorry, my apologies.
That's okay.
Welcome.
Well, I think that it would be bad if they got all 6 days, because if they got all 6 days, the people who wanted to go out on the day that they weren't there, they couldn't, because it would be that. And for most people, that is their only time that they can go out, and if they couldn't, they would always have to be inside. And with Corona, it is good to go outside and have outside time.
Okay, all right, well, thank you very much. Thank you for your testimony. And then last witness is Ann Billy Rice. Is Ms. Rice here?
We couldn't find her in the waiting room.
Couldn't find her. Okay. All right. Well, let's see. Does anyone have questions for the opponents of the bill? Delegate Jacobs, I see your hand up. Was that from before, or do you have a new question?
I'm sorry, it was up from before.
Okay. All right. Last call for any questions. Oh, let's see. No, let's see. Let me just make sure I'm not missing anyone here. Okay, no, that's it. Thank you, everyone, for your testimony on the bill. That ends the bill hearing for House Bill 615. Next, we'll turn to House Bill 1134. Delegate Carey.
Good afternoon, Vice Chairman Stein, members of the committee. Thank you for the opportunity today to introduce House Bill 1143, Natural Resources, Fishing and Hunting Rights. And for the record, I'm Delegate Ned Carey. This bill affirms the importance of fishing and hunting to Maryland's cultural and social heritage. The bill also codifies the intent of the General Assembly that Marylanders have a right to fish and hunt in accordance with regulations and restrictions under laws enacted by the General Assembly. And as the co-chair of the Maryland Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus, I've seen the importance of responsible fishing and hunting in our state. I believe that we need to protect and expand the rights of Marylanders to fish and hunt in our state, and the passage of this bill would support the hundreds of thousands of Marylanders who fish and hunt, as well as the hundreds of millions of dollars in economic activity that fishing and hunting bring to the state. And it's necessary to preserve our environment for future generations. So, you know, as I've said before, this bill is important. Again, many of us have these stories about fishing and hunting with our parents, our grandparents, our aunts, our uncles. And really what we want to do is to try to preserve the environment for future generations through this bill to enjoy. And we feel that that should be balanced with the rights of our residents. So this legislation simply recognizes the General Assembly's role in protecting this balance. And I would just point out that this bill is a cross file of Senate Bill 318, which is identical to Senate Bill 86 that passed the Finance Committee and the Senate floor in the 2020 legislative session. With that, I respectfully request a favorable report on House Bill 1134. And Mr. Chairman, I'm not sure how your committee does it, but I do have a panel that I signed up to speak with me, Ms. Beth Hill and Mr. Charles Rodney.
Sure, they're welcome to go next. That would be fine. And they each have 2 minutes. So who would like to go first? Ms. Hill?
Sure. Thank you. I have an unstable internet connection here, so I'm hoping I don't lose you in these 2 minutes. But thank you, Vice Chairman Stein and members of the committee for the opportunity to testify in support of House Bill 1134, Fishing and Hunting Rights. My name is Beth Hill. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland Forest Association. MFA is a nonprofit 501c3 established in 1976. We're membership driven. Over 70% of our membership is comprised of private forest landowners and hunting and recreational groups. Part of our mission is to increase the awareness of the diverse uses of forest, which of course includes hunting, while promoting economic opportunities for landowners and supporting sustainability of our natural resources. Showing support for this bill has value to my members. Some choose to lease their hunting rights to their property for money, and others only in exchange for the substantial benefits that hunters provide to the landowner, such as maintaining roads, ditches, trails, and property lines, helping them control invasives, or alerting them to pest infestations, not to mention putting food on the table. Having these boots on the ground is especially beneficial to older and absentee landowners. You'll find no one else more connected to the land than a hunter. I know this from my own personal experience afield as a Dorchester County native. Hunting is much more than shooting. It's camaraderie, it's conservation, it's countless hours spent reflecting in the great outdoors. It's a tradition that gives you a deep appreciation for the world and people around you. I ask you for a favorable review of this bill. Hunting and fishing in Maryland, in my mind, should be a guaranteed right, encouraged and promoted by the enactment of this bill. Thank you for your time, and thank you, Delegate Carey, for bringing this bill forward.
Okay, thank you. Next, Mr. Charles Rodney.
Good afternoon. Thank you for Delegate Carey. You may not be able to see my picture, but we have a little connect problem, but everybody knows me. I'm in support of this bill. I too, like Ms. Hill, I'm a passionate rabbit hunter. I'm known as the rabbit hunter all over the country. I'm a conservationist like everybody else. I work with farmers, with landowners, with other hunters to protect the game and the lands, to follow all of the rules. It is important. I'm 71 as of last week. I've been doing this for since I've been 8 years old, about 63 years. We do not violate any of the rules that natural resources place on us. All game that is harvested is consumed by someone. And as Delegate Carey said, we bring a lot of money and jobs into the state just simply by hunting. I have additional expenses because I have dogs, which I must maintain and treat them properly with medicine, vet bills, etc. In addition to all the other things that hunters spend money on. I currently mentor and have mentored a lot of new hunters into the sport of hunting, mainly rabbit hunting, because that's all I do. I've served on numerous statewide committees promoting hunting and fighting against the things that we hunters do not agree with in past years. I've served 5 years with the Department of Natural Resources Wildlife Advisory Committee for 5 years. I am a strong supporter. I believe in this bill. I think it's important to give us and continue that right of hunting and fishing so that we can pass it on to the next generations down the road. Thank you again. I ask for a speedily and a hearty report, a positive report. Thank you.
Thank you. Delegate, there's one more witness who signed up in support, James McKittrick of DNR. So if you don't mind, we'll have him testify and then we'll take any questions.
Sure.
Okay. Mr.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. For the record, James McKittrick with the Maryland Department of Natural Resources, here in support of House Bill 1134. We'd like to give a hearty us too, and would hope that the committee would grant this bill a favorable committee report.
Okay, all right. Questions, let's see. First question goes to Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Oh, sorry, the screen blinked and it confused me there for a minute. Thank you, Delegate Carey, for bringing this bill. You know, we certainly do have a long tradition of hunting and fishing in Maryland. I personally have never hunted, but I have fond memories of fishing as a child with my uncle, and that was a really, really special time. I'm just curious, though, what problem is this bill trying to solve? Are there threats to hunting and fishing rights?
Yeah, well, you know, I think what we're trying to do is we're trying to just codify this and just say that we as Marylanders endorse the right to fish and hunt, and that it is long part of our tradition. There are always people that you know that are out there who don't either like to fish or hunt. So again, we're just trying to say that yes, we endorse this. We endorse the right to fish and hunt in the state of Maryland. And a lot of other states are, you know, as a member of the Sportsman's Caucus, a lot of other state legislative Sportsman's Caucus around the country have been doing this just to let citizens know that the state legislatures do endorse the rights to hunt and fish.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Delegate Healy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vice Chair and Delegate Carey. Thank you for bringing this bill to us. I'm curious about a couple things. What does this bill actually accomplish? Does it give hunters and fishers, people who hunt and fish, special rights that other people don't have?
No, ma'am. No, I mean, you know, we still have to comply with all the rules and regulations that DNR sets forth. So no, but like I was saying to Delegate Ruth, all we're trying to do is just to say that we as the General Assembly recognize the economic, the social, the cultural benefit of hunting, and that we endorse that.
Okay, just a follow-up. Are there other activities in the state that have this kind of endorsement?
I don't know. I'd have to get back to you.
Okay, because I mean, you could fill in that blank in your bill with lots of different activities. You could put shopping, or you could put gambling, or horseback riding, or going to the track, or whatever. So I'm just curious. Some of those things are embedded in Maryland culture. Certainly the horse industry has always been part of Maryland culture as well.
Well, like I said, this bill isn't about this bill is about something that we've been doing since the state of Maryland was founded. I mean, maybe you could make the argument about horse racing, but we as a culture and as a society in Maryland have been hunting and fishing since the state was founded in 1634.
And probably trading as well. Thank you so much for bringing the bill.
Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Delegate Jacobs.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Delegate Carey, you're just trying to help that guy win the state seal, aren't you?
Yes, sir, I am.
He's getting a little weak-kneed some days with some of this testimony, so you're just trying to prop him up, isn't it?
Absolutely, Delegate.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's always a good thing to do. Let's see. Any other questions? No? Okay. I think that ends the questions, and that ends the testimony for House Bill 1134. Thank you very much, Delegate Carey.
Thank you all. Have a great day.
Okay, next we'll go to Delegate Chisholm, House Bill 1135.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Thank you, committee members. For the record, Delegate Brian Chisholm here to present HB 1135. HB 1135 would prohibit community associations preventing a riparian property owner from constructing a pier or making other improvements into the waters of the state if that riparian property owner has gotten all the strict approvals from state, federal, and county, including Army Corps of Engineers, DNR, MDE. In the interest of everybody's time, this bill is pretty straightforward. The riparian rights statutes have been in the state of Maryland for over 160 years, going back to 1862. This bill just wants to ensure that private property owners that have the riparian rights cannot be prohibited from building a pier on their property if they own that riparian rights solely, and then can't be stopped by subjective homeowners association and being asked for a written testimony. What's actually happening in some of these cases is we have homeowners associations who do not own the water in front, and I know that that's been a bill that's went through. This is totally different from that bill. From subjectively saying, well, we don't like this guy, so we're gonna prohibit him from getting that written permission, even though he's gone through the strenuous task of going through all the permitting processes, all the DNR processes, all the Corps Army Engineer processes. So it's just a bill to make it consistent to fall into Maryland state statute that's been codified for over 160 years. And I'm just gonna leave it at that and I think I have one person here to testify on the bill, and then I'm more than happy to clean up and answer any questions the committee might have.
Okay, all right, Delegate, thank you. And yes, we do have Mike Huntway who signed up favorable with amendments. Mr. Mike Huntway, are you in the house?
Mike, you got to come off mute.
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. I'm sorry, everyone. Good afternoon, Vice Chairman Stein and members of the committee. My name is Mike Huntley, speaking today in support of House Bill 1135. Most waterfront property owners possess a group of unique legal rights called riparian rights. Just as all property owners have the right to access a public road via their driveway, riparian owners in Maryland by statute have an exclusive right to make improvements to preserve access to navigable water from their property. Navigable waterways are the equivalent of a public road, and a pier serves the same purpose as a private driveway.
Okay.
This right of access generally means the right to build a pier suitable for the site conditions and properly approved by the county, MDE, and the Army Corps of Engineers. This does not imply a right to build whatever pier you want. Piers are carefully regulated to minimize impacts to state wetlands, and MDE has an exhaustive list of at least 23 items it must consider before approving a pier. Despite this right of access that's been in statute, and even when the riparian owner has satisfied the comprehensive regulatory requirements that have been set forth, community associations using a covenant that requires written permission before construction have been successful in preventing riparian owners from building the pier solely by refusing to provide that permission. Enforcement of private covenants should not be used to impair property rights granted by statute, and this bill ensures the riparian right of access is protected as such. As noted in my written testimony, the language of this bill parallels and is consistent with language in other sections of Maryland statute that protects certain property rights. Importantly, this bill does not impair, terminate, change, or otherwise affect riparian rights. It does not relieve riparian owners from securing approvals from the county, MDE, or the Army Corps. Instead, the amended language is focused narrowly on removing the need for a riparian owner to get permission from a community association when all government approvals have been properly issued. Thank you for your time this afternoon, and I ask the committee's favorable recommendation on the bill as amended.
Okay, thank you very much. We do have a couple questions. Delegate Ruth.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. So if this bill were, so riparian rights, we know can be complicated. We've heard, about riparian rights in this committee before. If this bill were to pass, would it take away the ability of the courts to determine these very complex issues?
No, because I think that the courts are going to go back to Maryland statute that's been codified for 160 years. I think some of the cases that you guys have had in front of your committee have been over the homeowners association actually owning the riparian rights, and then because of climate change, they lost those riparian rights, and that went to a court case. I think in this case, it's pretty cut and dry. If it were to go to a court case, unless that homeowners association were to take any of their covenants and say, our covenants usurp all federal, state, and local regulations or riparian rights at that point. If I understood your question correctly, Delia.
I think so. So, if for example, a pier were built in such a way that it were impeding the ability of, say, a community association to use the waterfront that they have rights to also, wouldn't that be something that the courts should decide?
I think it would be decided before they actually got the permit to impede on that homeowners association's pier.
Well, all right.
I think one of the questions, and forgive me if I'm incorrect on this, is one of the questions that's asked when you apply for this permit is, are you impeding on the rights of anybody else around you, which I assume would include a homeowners association.
Right, but is that actually checked? I mean, if you lie and say I'm not impeding, is anybody actually looking into that?
I think they probably do. I think it's very difficult to get any sort of a living on a pier permit, a bulkhead. There's so many different hands that touch. It's usually a good year and a half in some cases to get. And I know that they often do a site
Delegate,
visit.
hold on one second. Jerry, I think you need to go on mute.
Yeah, I already got plenty. Bombay had plenty of Bacardi.
Jerry, Delegate Clark. Oh, great. Okay. Go ahead, Delegate Chisholm.
They will do a site visit often, and they will also do overheads. When I was discussing this bill with somebody, the gentleman just did a testimony, I looked over top and you can see clearly everything all around it, which was kind of ironic to me because there's piers everywhere around this property except for this one road, and it just isn't consistent. And I think it's easy for the county. I know in Anne Arundel County, the county in which I reside, it is a very arduous and long task to get a water permit for a pier bulkhead, those such things.
So you're talking about the property in Cape St. Clair, correct?
No.
Okay.
We want to make sure that we made it abundantly clear that this has nothing to do with that case, nor would it affect it because it's got several factors and variables that are different than Cape St. Clair. And Cape St. Clair Homeowners Association actually owned part of that, had some of those riparian rights and lost it due to climate change or high water levels rising. This is just if a property owner has exclusive rights to those riparian rights that go with his property.
Okay. I guess I'm just still not sure how, if there were a dispute, how the courts would still be able to resolve that if this basically favors the permit process, and that even though this is a different case, that was a case that hinged on, that actually went to court and hinged on a question. So I guess I'm just curious, in that, even though you're talking about a different case, in that particular case, would this have prevented the community association from going to court?
I think the community association probably would have presented, and I'm not a lawyer, so, forgive me for my amateur view of legal matters, but I think if that was the case, then the homeowners association would have presented their argument and they would have looked at the legality of the documents that they hold and may have been signed, and are those documents sufficient to usurp all of the other federal, state, and local agencies we were discussing. It is a little bit similar that we just heard a bill in the House, I think a week and a half ago, on the low-level landscape lighting. And I think the reason that that bill got put in is because a lot of these homeowners associations are now telling people what they can and can't do. I think that there was rain barrels involved with that bill and low-level lighting. And it's just, all of the riparian rights are obviously codified in almost 200-year-old statute. And it's just trying to ensure we're not letting homeowners association now become so powerful that they can subjectively shut somebody down that's just asking for written permission.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, Delegate Holmes.
Thank you. And my question is in fact relevant to homeowners associations or common area communities. Because if, I'll just take another example. If you had a single family home and you currently have an asphalt driveway, you decide you want to turn it into a concrete driveway. If you live in a homeowners association, you've got to submit an architectural review request to that homeowners association to get that approval. And the only reason I'm missing that example, which has nothing to do with this case, is because if you have agreed to move into a common ownership community, you have also agreed to adhere to the governing documents of that common ownership community. And are you suggesting in this legislation that riparian rights give you the ability to circumvent the governing documents of the common ownership community governing documents?
I think that my answer would be yes. Anything that violates federal, state, and local law that is written into a covenant should certainly be allowed. You know, riparian rights, and I know you driveways are one thing. Riparian rights have been in the state since 1862, I believe. So my concern is if we start to allow a homeowners association through their covenants to put things that are in clear violation of federal law and state law, where does that end? How much power can we give a homeowners association? We can say that, well, they signed a covenant, but they're not allowing certain residents into their neighborhood, even though that's in clear violation of federal and state law. Do we then allow it?
I understand what you're saying. However, the governing documents, scenarios, and the Maryland Homeowners Association Act is in fact state law. And to attempt to circumvent, and I don't know if what you're suggesting by your bill does in fact circumvent common ownership communities or the Maryland Homeowners Association Act, which is state law. But to attempt to circumvent that, I think would be tremendously problematic. And again, I apologize because I haven't read your legislation, but being familiar with common ownership communities throughout the state, I'm going to be taking a close look at it to see if that is in fact your intent. And I do appreciate your response.
All right. Thank you very much, Delegate.
Okay, Delegate Healy.
Here we go. There we go. Thank you very much. Delegate, I'm curious about a couple things. Does your bill address individuals who own these riparian rights independent of the homeowners association, like a neighboring property owner? Or is it somebody that is already part of that association?
No, this is in this direct case, it is when they are already part of that association.
So, okay, because that was not clear from your presentation. Because I could see, you know, if you live next door to a homeowners association, what you do with your property has nothing to do with that. But if you're
Correct.
a member of that association, then as Delegate Holmes said, you know, when you bought into that, you assumed and I would not want to live in one, to tell you the truth, because you do assume all these restrictions on how you can use your property. There are things about, the shape of your windows and what color the door is, and, and if it's not common, how is it not a common element that the riparian area belongs to one individual in this homeowners association that you're discussing?
Do you mind if I yield to my other panel?
I can wait for the panel. That would be fine.
No.
They can address
To
it
the
when they.
gentleman, to the gentleman that just testified, Mike Huntley, and the reason I ask is I do know he's an engineer, who's a little more well in depth on some of that, and I want to make sure we give you the accurate and correct answer.
Yeah, I'm just trying to understand how these rights balance against each other and how it is possible for a person who belongs to a homeowners association to have their individual rights to a piece of that area that is not part of the common elements. So yeah, I would appreciate an answer from anybody who can give it.
And
Mr. Huntley, do you want to respond?
Yeah, sure. So in the specific scenario that we're talking about, there is a community beach area, and that beach area has riparian rights. They built a pier there, a community pier, and there's a swimming beach. But that area does not extend then in front of the residential property lots in that community. So in that community, each individual property owner has the riparian rights because their property extends to the mean high water line. So there's no community land. Delegate Ruth was talking about in Cape St. Clair, where there was a strip of community beach that, as platted in the original development, separated the residential properties from the water. So the properties weren't actually waterfront. Their property line did not extend to the mean high water. Therefore, technically, they weren't waterfront. They didn't have riparian rights. In certain communities, there is a community area, a beach, a boat launch, or whatever, that is common property to the association. But then the individual building lots do not have that strip of land that separates the property from the water that was reserved. Each individual property owner has the riparian rights that have been granted by statute, which include to build a pier.
Okay, so let me, you say that they have the riparian rights by statute, by whose statute? State government, state law?
By Maryland.
Maryland
Yes,
state law.
Yes.
Because the homeowners association that they belong to is on the water, and they have the unit that's closest to the water, that they have that kind of right?
So only waterfront properties have riparian rights. Okay, so if you're a homeowners association, in the issue in Cape St. Clair,
I don't care about, I'm sorry, excuse me. I just want.
I'm sorry. Okay.
I'm not interested in a discussion about an individual case, because we're talking about state legislation, and I'm trying to get to the underlying principle that we're trying to address here. So my question is, if a homeowners association is built on water, that in every case, every homeowners association, that the units that are closest to the water have the riparian rights for themselves and for nobody else in that association, or not?
It depends on how the community was originally platted and subdivided. In some cases, the community reserves it.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to have to look at this very closely. I appreciate very much your contribution to the discussion.
Okay, I'm back.
Great.
Yeah, so I guess Delegate Gilchrist has the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Huntley, I think the last two questioners were basically on the topic I'm on. But if someone applies to do this, is there notification to all parties, like the HOA and the individual?
In past years, there was a requirement to notify each riparian property owner within 175 feet of the project. I believe that has been taken away. You know, in cases, I believe that MDE notifies. I'm not positive about that. I know that that's
Okay.
been a question, but I'm not
Thank
positive.
you. Yeah, thank you very much.
Okay, any further questions? For some reason, I don't have the ability to lower your hands, so when you get done speaking, if you could do that, I'd appreciate it. There appear to be no further questions, so that would end the public hearing on House Bill 1135. Thank you very much. Let's go to House Bill 1146. Let's go to House Bill 1146, Delegate Hill.
Well, good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Vice Chair, members of the committee. I am Terry Hill, and I'm here to present House Bill 1146, which is it's another attempt on my part after several years of trying to get mattress and box streams to be addressed in our waste stream management program. Those who've been on the committee for a while will perhaps remember that I seem to come before you almost every year with some cockamamie plan to try and address what.
All your bills aren't cockamamie. She appears to have frozen up.
Yeah, I think we lost her, Mr. Chair.
Well, let's give her a little bit of time to stop the timer, please. And I hope she knows that she's frozen up.
The hospital was taking too much energy.
That's what it is.
They should pay for it.
Yes, they should.
patients.
Yes, they should. Well, oh gosh.
Mr. Chair, I just texted her.
Yeah. Oh, good. Thank you. Let's have her reconnect and see how she does. I'm rather surprised to see that the retailers opposed to the bill this year. City government is, though. Oh, it's a tough break. You know, maybe, I'll tell you what, who is it who texted her?
That was me, Mr. Chair.
Okay, you know, I think what is Delegate Bridges here with us? He's not. Okay, well, we'll just wait.
I'm here, Mr. Chair.
Are you? Has she responded to the text, Sheila?
Am I here now? Am I here now?
Oh, Delegate Hill, I can hear you and I can see you.
I'm here.
Okay, I was just,
All right.
I just said that.
Do I start over?
Go ahead.
Do I start over? What do I do?
Go ahead, restart the, you got 4 minutes, start over, please.
Okay, I'm not sure what you heard, but let me just jump ahead a little bit. I've been before this committee on a number of occasions trying to help Maryland to address the hole in our waste stream management program that allows mattresses and box springs to end up in landfills, incinerated and on the side of the road. And we have managed to get legislation out of this committee and over to the Senate. But frankly, it watered down so much that it couldn't get out of the Senate because the chairman, Senator Pinsky, said the bill didn't do anything. With that being said, and he was right, I have another bill before you that I introduced to actually do something. And then I'm going to refer you to the interlineated amendment copy that is really the bill that I'd like you to consider. And what this bill does, 1146, is it follows the model of the very fine paint stewardship program that you all passed out of the floor just yesterday. And it follows along with that in some mattress stewardship programs that have been set up successfully in other states. And it calls for Maryland to establish a mattress stewardship program. It establishes a funding stream and gives a deadline by which the industry should come up with the recommendations of how we can carry this out. The plan would, I believe, and I have been able to convince you all, I think in the past, would actually also be a entrepreneurial job engine, because we want to focus on disaggregation of mattress parts and recycling of the mattress parts. And there are some additional amendments that I would like you to consider, but I'm very hopeful that if you will move with the amended bill, or the bill as the amendments come in, that we actually lay this to bed once and for all. And I'm going to leave that for questions and for the rest of the panel. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to first recognize the people who've signed up in favor of the bill, and then we'll entertain questions to all of you. But before I recognize them, I noticed that the retailers haven't signed up in opposition this year, as they always do. Could it be that the bill as introduced didn't do anything, so they didn't comment at all, and now with the amendments would now once again
I believe
oppose
that's
the bill?
true. I believe that's true, but I would also say, Mr. Chairman, that the industry has worked with other states to set up a program. So the program we would expect them to recommend is one that they have had no reluctance about doing in other states. And in fact, when I contacted them 3 years ago and asked about coming up with a stewardship program here in Maryland, they indicated that they needed more time to get their Connecticut and New York programs off the ground. So I don't think they'll be in opposition. The stewardship program that they often recommend, I think, is less of a job engine. And it doesn't always do as much in terms of recycling, but again, it's improvement over what we have now. And the amendment I recommend and would also be offering to the subcommittee would include setting up an advisory council and having some real oversight about how we implement the program.
Okay, let me recognize the following three people have signed up in favor: Carolyn Parsa, Scott Cassell, and Marie Clark. So let's go to Carolyn. Carolyn, are you out there?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
I'm here.
You got
Thank
2
you.
minutes. Welcome back to the committee.
Thank you, Chair Barbie and other committee members. Hello, I'm Carolyn Parsa, representing over 75,000 members and supporters of the Maryland Sierra Club. I want to thank Delegate Hill for working so hard on this issue. The Sierra Club supports a statewide mattress stewardship program. More than 75% of a mattress can be recycled. However, right now, less than 2% of mattresses are being recycled. We need a program. In fact, Maryland's 2014 Zero Waste Plan recommends an extended producer responsibility or EPR program for mattresses. We do have a few suggestions for clarification or possible amendments. We would suggest the plan be renewable under MDE to ensure continued public oversight and allow for improvements based on performance. For example, California's program is renewable every 4 years. Since an assessment is paid on all mattresses, we think the program should be required to accept all mattresses, regardless of their condition. The bill should also address how to reduce illegal dumping. And we should ensure this program is accessible to people living in multi-family dwellings and those who don't have a vehicle or the ability to haul a mattress to a drop-off location. We agree that incineration should be banned as a disposal option for mattresses, but would also like to add chemical or advanced recycling to that ban. And you can see our written testimony for more information about that. Finally, though it would be great to recycle every mattress, in practice, there might be some mattresses or mattress components that cannot be recycled. For example, in California, almost 30% of materials from mattresses could not be recycled and went to landfill. So we think that a complete ban on landfilling may not be practical at this time, and we might want to wait longer and learn how the program works before making that decision. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next, Scott Cassell.
Yes, I'm here. Chairman Barbie, Vice Chair Stein, and members of the committee. My name is Scott Cassell. I'm the CEO and founder of the Product Stewardship Institute and I'm here to express support for HB 1146 as amended. I did not see that version up on the line, so I'm a little confused about which one I'm supporting here. But we're a 20-year-old nonprofit national organization that we work to reduce the health and environmental impacts from over 25 consumer products, including paint and mattresses. We've developed a best practices policy model to reduce mattress waste, as we did with paint, but HB 1146 as amended is consistent with that model. These mattresses are a burden for cities and towns. They're a large cost for recycling and disposal. They're illegally dumped in communities, difficult to manage in trucks, transfer stations, landfills, and incinerators. Very low recycling rate, and it's a waste of resources contributing to greenhouse gas emissions. So as amended, this bill will establish a producer-managed system that will save municipalities millions of dollars in Maryland on recycling and disposal costs, improve collection convenience, increase mattress recycling, and create jobs, particularly for those with barriers to employment. This bill is similar to the one we've helped develop in California, Connecticut, and Rhode Island for the past 7 years. And Connecticut increased their recycling rate from 8 to 63% alone. Although we helped develop those initial programs, they need to be upgraded. It's been 7 years. So as amended, this includes some but not all the lessons learned from those early programs. We recommend performance goals to evaluate the program, an advisory committee to advise MDE and allow input from others, and differential fees on mattresses. Right now, charging the same assessment for all mattresses is an equity issue, since many low-income families buy smaller, less expensive mattresses, yet pay the same price as those buying more expensive ones, and there's no incentive to design these mattresses to make them more sustainable.
Okay, if you could wrap up
your... for the opportunity to testify today.
Thank you very much, sir. Now let's turn to Marie Clark.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. My name is Marie Clark, and I serve as Vice President of Policy and Government Affairs for the International Sleep Products Association, or ISPA. I'm here today to testify in favor of HB 1146, but with amendments. ISPA represents mattress manufacturers, as well as those that provide components and services to mattress companies. We support product stewardship efforts, and we've taken steps to improve the long-term environmental sustainability of the mattress industry's operations and products. These efforts include creating a 501c3 nonprofit entity called the Mattress Recycling Council, or MRC, which has operated successful mattress recycling programs in California, Connecticut, and Rhode Island for the past 5 years. Through this model, MRC recycles over 1.5 million mattresses and box springs annually and has recycled over 7.5 million mattresses and box springs since its inception. The mattress industry designed MRC so that it could be easily expanded and adapted to additional states that enact legislation, consistent with the existing programs. We submitted written testimony, so I'll just briefly cover some suggested amendments to the bill. One being, we urge regional cooperation, and we would like the bill to address some cross-border concerns. Two, we suggest that the bill allow for funding of research to improve program objectives. Three, ISPA suggests reconsideration of the convenience criteria. And four, we would like to clarify some of the language regarding the fee, including that the fee should cover but not exceed the costs of operating and administering the program, and maintain a financial reserve sufficient to operate the program over a multi-year period. ISPA looks forward to working with Maryland as it tackles the issue of mattress recycling. As an organization that operates these programs on a day-to-day basis, we know how to efficiently and effectively manage and recycle discarded mattresses. And for this reason, we're prepared to work with the committee, bill sponsor, and interested stakeholders to expand MRC's successful network to Maryland. Thank you, and I'm happy to take any questions.
Okay, first question goes to Delegate Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And thank you, Delegate Hill, for bringing this bill and for your commitment to the environment. So just to clarify, the amendments would change the bill to turn it into a stewardship program, like the paint stewardship program we just passed.
Correct.
Great. And did you have a chance to see the letter from Baltimore City?
I did not.
So they're opposing it, but it sounds like maybe they're opposing the original version because they actually suggest a stewardship program in the letter. I was just curious if you had any communications with them or.
No, I mean, I've spoken about stewardship with Baltimore County. You're absolutely correct. This bill has been a bit of a moving target. We thought we had a better approach in the beginning, and then after more discussion, just decided it was time to bite the bullet and stop sort of coaching and coaching Maryland to kind of figure out how to get there and to just call it. And when we saw the success with which Delegate Boyce's bill moved forward, it just seemed like this was the right year to do the right thing.
That's great. Do you think you could just touch base with Baltimore City and see, what their position would be with the amendments?
Absolutely. We would love to do that, work with all the interested stakeholders.
Thank you.
Delegate Boyce.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you, Delegate Ruth. For that, I was going to ask about Baltimore City myself, but I wanted to ask because I have heard about mattresses being recycled, and I'm curious about what is that process and what it looks like. I'm certainly ignorant to it, and I know, back in the day there were issues with having mattresses that were kind of refurbished, but they had issues where front layers were created, but inside the foam wasn't appropriately checked out. So essentially you had, a molded mattress, but then you'd had like a new cover. So I'm just curious about
okay.
Process.
So it's a great question. It's a great question. And one of the things that I think, I looked at, and this committee's looked at over the number of years, is how do we actually sort of push a particular type of recycling program, which is what we call this disaggregation, where you take the mattress and disaggregate it into the wood components, the metal components, and the textile components. When you take the wood, and about 90% of a mattress is then recyclable. So the wood can be reused. The metal of the staples can present a problem, but that's a job opportunity because many times that has to either be taken, the metal has to be removed manually, or you have to use something similar to an MRI machine to pull all that metal out, okay? And then you can use that wood. The metal can also be reused, and the textiles can be repurposed, but when you heard earlier testimony about wanting to make sure that you couldn't reject any, there are folks that will reject them. Obviously, we worry about bed bugs, we worry about blood, we worry about all those things. And so we want a stewardship program that addresses those, and it might be that those kinds of mattresses have to go through a different process, but we're not really interested in just reuse and covering the mattress and sending it back out. And so we will want a stewardship program that address those issues, and frankly, that addressed all the issues that the other panelists mentioned, including, encouraging businesses to be set up that would, be dispatched to pick it up from your home, so you don't have to take it somewhere, and would hire the people to do the disaggregation. And I think you've also seen legislation this year that really recognizes that the biggest challenge we have to our environmental goals may be the lack of adequate in-state downstream resources. So we have products, but we need to have something to turn it into. So we need more manufacturing in the state, so that we're not simply taking recyclable material and sending it out to China, sending it out to other countries, sitting it on barges and letting it float around the ocean. But I think all of those things are really positives for Maryland, and that's the direction that we need to be going into.
Well, lucky for us, there's a bill for that.
Exactly.
And marketability. So thank you so much, Delegate Doctor.
Okay, any other questions for the sponsor or proponents? Nobody signed up to testify against the bill, so that ends the public hearing on House Bill 1146. Let's turn to House Bill 1207, Delegate Bridges.
Oh. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, good. All right.
Thanks again, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, and members of the Environment and Transportation Committee. Again, Delegate Tony Bridges here in support of House Bill 1207. This bill is about the state's Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities. It's about reforming that commission. The commission has been around since 2001, and the mission is really to advise state agencies on environmental justice issues, assess how current laws address those issues and inequities, and develop criteria to determine how communities can be disproportionately hit by environmental degradation. All great ideas, right? But the commission hasn't really been given the tools to actually do those things. And so with this bill, we want to give the commission more tools to be effective. The hope is really that this is the start of the commission going along the path of being able to do what it's charged to do. So the legislation really does a few things. It expands the membership to include people from underserved communities. It revises the mission, and it equips the commission with the tools necessary to do its critical work. Let me reiterate that this is, for us, really the first step. The bill alters or expands a couple of duties for the commission as well. It requires the commission to use data sets and mapping tools to review and analyze impacts on state laws and policies on the issue of environment. It also requires the commission to meet at least 6 times a year and have those meetings rotate between our rural as well as our urban communities throughout the state, which is a good thing. One of the things that it repeals actually is the requirement that the commission develop criteria to assess whether communities in the state may be experiencing environmental justice issues. The commission really hasn't been given the tools to do that, and there are state agencies that the commission, we should be using to make those determinations or have the commission work with those state agencies. And so it's repealing that portion, but it's adding some other things to the mission. One of the things that you'll hear from some of the advocates, and I think Dr. Jacoby Wilson is on here as well, is sort of how to expand that mission to make sure that the commission is really doing critical work that can actually be effective for the state. And so one of the things that I know some of the commission, some of the advocates mentioned is the fact that they also needed, to be effective, they also needed more staff. And so I'm happy to see that in the fiscal note, the analysts actually said that staffing is needed in order to make sure that the commission is effective. As it stands right now, the commission does have 1 staff person, but that staff person also has other duties outside of being the person that's appointed just to the commission. And so with this bill, again, it's really trying to make sure that the commission is effective in the work that it does and expanding, or not expanding, but really streamlining the role of the commission and the work that it's supposed to do. And so, again, there are a number of advocates and commission members that we need to work with to make sure that this is really the right thing for them to be doing and it makes sure that it is an effective tool, in the way that they do their work. And so I know you'll hear from a few advocates who want to add on to the commission, add membership to the commission, as well as you sort of streamline some of the goals or roles of the commission members as well. And so I'm willing to work with everyone, all of the advocates, and as well as the commission members in order to get this bill to where it needs to be. And so I hope you will give it a favorable report and look forward to any questions that you may have.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go on to all the advocates for the bill, and then we'll entertain questions. They are Vernice Miller-Travis, Monica Brooks. Any relation, Tony? Oh, I'm sorry. You're not Brooks. You're
Bridges.
Okay, never mind. It's been a long week. What can I say? Ariel King and Jacoby Wilson. So let's start with Vernice Miller-Travis. Vernice? Okay, Monica, are you out there? How about Ariel King?
I'm here.
Okay, you're up.
All right.
Welcome to the committee. You have 2
Mr.
minutes.
Chairman. Excellent. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I am Ariel King, a law clerk with Chesapeake Legal Alliance. Thank you for the opportunity to speak in favor of HB 1207 with amendments. First, we applaud the sponsors of this bill. The Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities is in need of some reform, and support. The specific amendments we suggest to further improve the bill are laid out in the Maryland League of Conservation Voters letter. We have also submitted written testimony. The movement for among other things, these principles demand the right of communities impacted by environmental injustice to participate as equal partners in every level of decision-making. As it stands, HB 1207 increases the amount of commission members that represent communities impacted by environmental injustice, yet there is no requirement for creating public engagement strategy to meaningfully involve and listen to the communities that are most impacted themselves. The commission has talked about wanting to do outreach for quite some time, but has not created a clear plan for how to move forward. And we believe the time for discussion has long since passed, and that the commission must now be required to create a public outreach plan. The commission already has 2 allotted slots for community members, which aren't even filled at this time. Adding more seats for community members will do absolutely nothing if there isn't actual outreach through a plan that engages community members on and off of the commission to guide the recommendations they create, actually give community members a real seat at the table, and that is accessible to those who have limited English proficiency or accessibility issues or needs of any other sort. For these reasons, we urge the support of the bill with amendments because it represents the first step, as Delegate Bridges noted, in reforming the commission to enable it to begin addressing environmental injustice in Maryland. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Is Sakobi Wilson there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Thank you for the, you can go ahead and get started. Yet. So I'm Dr. Jacoby Wilson. I am with the Maryland Institute for Applied Environmental Health. I'm happy to be here to provide testimony on HB 1207 and really focusing on giving a favorite report to this bill with amendments. So I was part of a group that submitted a letter to the governor on August 18, 2020, asking the governor to do more as it relates to environmental racism in the state of environmental justice in the state of Maryland. And in that letter, we included ideas about how we can reform this Commission on Environmental Justice and Sustainable Communities. And I believe to this point, both this committee and also your sister committee and the Senate have done a good job in providing some renewed energy and a new kind of charge for the commission. But we believe there's some additional amendments that can even make this commission stronger and have more impact for those communities that are impacted by environmental justice in our state. So as was just stated, having more community representatives, so having 4 representatives who can have a geographic representation from our 4 parts of the state: Western Maryland, Eastern Shore, Central, and Southern Maryland. We also want to make sure that the racial gender diversity is reflective of current census. We also want to make sure there's coordination of the efforts of the commission when it comes to data sets and using most recent data and really using tools to really assess environmental injustice and also get these issues of cumulative exposures, cumulative impacts, and cumulative effects. Really important for frontline fence-line communities. In addition, it's important for the commission to be able to look at laws, new bills, the actions of MDE and other state agencies as it pertains to are they in compliance with the Title VI of the Civil Rights Act, particularly the Disparate Impacts Clause. Additionally, there are opportunities for the commission to work with sister commissions and also other agencies like the Maryland Department of Health, because environmental injustice leads to environmental health disparities. Additionally, this commission needs to have dollars. It should have the same amount of staffing and budget as the Climate Change Commission does. And to end, we really want to see this commission, Maryland Environmental Policy Act.
If you could wrap up your testimony, the committee would appreciate it.
Yes, sir. So Maryland Environmental Policy Act and making sure we're looking at health impacts and really supporting communities that have EJ issues and moving forward with all Marylanders having safe environments moving forward. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Thank you. Are either Vernice Miller-Travis or Monica Brooks with us now? Okay, we'll go to questions. Delegate Boyce.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm here. I was on mute.
All right, well, Monica, go ahead.
I'm sorry, thank you so much. Good afternoon, Chairman Barve and committee members. My name is Monica Brooks, and I'm a resident of the Eastern Shore of Maryland. And I'm speaking for a favorable response with amendments to this bill. Community participation in legislative matters is central to our democracy. but typically only certain people are invited to participate. This bill with favorable amendments will bring necessary support to the voices of color, low income, immigrants, and other marginalized groups. Fully realized with the amendments, this will open doors to include those who have often been ignored. I believe that an equitable approach to public decisions ensures that the people most affected will have their voices heard without fear of repercussions or just being ignored. Upon speaking out against environmental atrocities, many of our residents were ostracized, attacked, ridiculed, harassed, or even fired from jobs. And we sought local government help, but found little to none. It's time to level the playing field so the cries of the frontline and fence line communities are validated and addressed. We had to seek help from outside of our community to get the support needed to prevent even water contamination. So these proposed amendments would do that. We have real environmental problems on the shore and throughout Maryland. And quite often we feel like an afterthought. Our concerns are coupled with the needs of parts of the state and let me jump ahead because my time is running out. The amendments requesting representatives from impacted communities will ensure that our specific concerns are addressed. We must have direct representation to lend voice to the specific issues of a community or a region. Within the rural community, we're plagued by water and air pollutants, mostly from big agriculture, but in metropolitan cities, it's smokestacks and bus fumes. So these proposed amendments will give us further control over what our say is. And also, we're talking about cumulative impacts. The pandemic exposed the total lack of a plan by the state and the industry, resulting in horrible conditions in poultry plants when workers were forced to work, mostly people of color and immigrants and low income.
If you could wrap up your testimony, we'd appreciate it. And
yes, sir. I'm right at the end.
Okay, all right.
So I'll close with this. So compliance with these things, including adding the civil rights, the Title VI, prohibiting discrimination. Inclusive engagement results in government processes, practices, and decisions that are more responsive to communities' priorities, avoid many unforeseen consequences, and create relationships. Community voices deserve validation and equal access. Thank you very much.
I'd like to get questions because we have another bill and then we have to be back on the floor at 4 o'clock. Is Vernice Miller-Travis with us? No? Okay. Delegate Boyce has a question.
Thank you. And I have talked to the bill sponsor about this so that it won't be a surprise. But, you know, I'm wondering about a direct communication with the actual commission. I'm actually on the commission. I'm newly appointed. I've unfortunately only been able to get to one meeting because, of course, we have floor sessions and, of course, we have hearings. So, and what I've already seen already, and I do think there is some reform needed, is that the commission is often heavily burdened with tasks that sometimes we legislate that they have no ability to do. And I certainly don't want them hampered myself to be able to say that, hey, we're in this position to do something and we don't have any support. And quite frankly, sometimes we also need not only community voices, but we also need some expertise, because that's where the mix comes in for us to really fight these and work towards these environmental justice issues. So I say all that to say, had anyone talk directly to the commission to ask them also how they would like to see reform? Because I know how I would like to see it. And thank you for the addition of potential individuals that can solely be to work on this as we kind of gather people together to make these decisions. So has someone directly talked to the commission about reform versus us telling us how the reform should happen?
Thank you for that question, Delegate and Commission member. I know that this, so part of the reason that this has also come up is there was a work group that was created by the Senate President. And out of that work group, there were a couple of recommendations around environmental injustices. And this was one of the recommendations to work on to, improve, the mission and the processes of the commission. In that work group, I know that, in speaking to some of the members on the Senate side, they did reach out to the commission and, in fact, touch base with the staff, Devin Dotson, who's part of, the staffing for the commission. And so I know that they've reached out to him at least. I don't know about the rest of the members of the commission, but I know that there was some outreach done. Yep.
Okay, Delegate Fraser Hidalgo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Delegate Bridges. It's always good to see you again. We miss you over here in ENT. So I'm glad to see you with some bills.
Seeing a lot more of me these days.
That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. It's a good thing. So thank you, Dr. Wilson. It's a pleasure to see you as well.
You know, any construction worker, any county worker.
Okay, hold on, stop. Somebody needs to mute themselves because I'm hearing some crosstalk from someplace. Okay, go ahead, Dave.
Good. Thank you. So I guess my question to you, Dr. Wilson, again, it's nice to see you, is as far as the commission is concerned, how would you, what part do you think they could play in reviewing bills, as far as kind of making sure the legislative aspect of some of our bills have more environmentally, that address some of the environmental justice concerns more? Can you speak to kind of the vision that there might be there?
Yeah, thank you for that question, Delegate Fraser Hidalgo. So I think that, and if you look at the Senate's report, the working group report, this commission has the opportunity, I think, to develop an equity and justice screen that can be applied to many bills that come through. And that can be a way to, support the efforts of the legislators. I would also say that when you think about, who are the communities that have environmental justice issues, the commission should be using tools to really understand those communities that have those issues and engage those communities that have those issues. For example, we actually just demoed Maryland Environmental Justice Screen to the commission yesterday morning. So that's a tool that can actually be used by the commission to understand where communities have issues and where we should target resources and investments to address climate and environmental injustice. So I think those are two, so they need more tools. And those tools are only as good as the data. So there are some data issues, limitations of tools, but that's an opportunity for us to move forward to support the commission. And additionally, when you look beyond just MDE and what Devin Dodson is doing as the EJ officer, every state agency should have an EJ plan. I mean, that's so a little bit extra, but just to make sure it's not all just on the one commission. It's just not all on MDE. It's housing, it's DOT, it's ag, it's DNR, it's planning, right? They all should be working together. So when you look at the commission with the representatives who've been appointed from these different agencies, that's an opportunity to have more interagency discussion, right? And so I think there's pieces there. And I know that the commission, with the changes with Devin's leadership and the Secretary's leadership, the commission's doing more recently, but I think the support, this bill would really just help them even more. But that data tools and that screening process, I think will be really important.
Is that, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, just a quick follow-up.
Yeah, just remember, we have to be back on the floor at 4 o'clock and we have another.
Quick. Is that overlay mapping tool the one that you and I reviewed a couple of months ago? Was that one of the tools you're talking about?
Yes, sir. So we have Maryland EJ Screen, and we also have a climate equity tool that climate equity health tool we're also developing that could be used as well. Yes,
okay,
sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you very much, Doctor.
Okay, any further questions for the sponsor or the proponents? No one signed up in opposite. Wait a minute. Hold on. Okay, yeah, one person signed up in opposition, but it's only written testimony, so there's nobody to ask questions of. So, okay, well, thank you very much, Delegate Bridges. Great to see you. And that concludes the public hearing for House Bill 1207. Okay, next bill is House Bill 1267, Delegate Henson. And yeah, Delegate Henson, are you with us?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, my apologies. Let me just turn down my committee. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the Environment and Transportation Committee for the opportunity to present House Bill 1267, Work Group on Public Water Access. This bill is a intergovernmental interagency work group that would study opportunities for public water access in the state of Maryland. The state has 7,719 miles of shoreline, but only 629 public water access sites. We're in need of public water access throughout the state. what we learned in the pandemic, one of the positive sites, if there are any things that are positive that has come out of it, is that the increased demand for public water is something that we're hoping to carry forward into the future, that it gives us the opportunity for recreational outlets to increase public health and to also promote lifelong water quality stewardship out of the public that gets to access these public lands and the beautiful resources that exist within the state of Maryland. What this bill would do is bring together 30 diverse stakeholders from different associations and government organizations to discover and study what we have that exists. And those organizations would make recommendations to state and local governments on how we can protect and preserve those public water access sites throughout the state. I have some panelists that would testify in support of the bill, and I believe that there's no testimony in opposition of the bill. I would also note that none of the stakeholders and the group are members of the General Assembly. So this is something that we would turn over into the capable hands of those that do this work every day and are very vested and interested in the outcome of this work. Thank you for your time, to my colleagues and to those who have signed up to testify.
Okay, thank you, Delegate. Let's hear from Verna Harrison, Thornell Jones, Lisa Arrowsmith, Annie Richards, Jana Davis, and David Sikorsky in that order. So first, Verna Harrison. Verna, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you and see you. Please proceed.
Thank you, Chairman and members of the committee. My name is Verna Harrison. I am pleased to testify in support of HB 1267 on behalf of the Chesapeake Conservancy, where I serve on the board. Having been involved with the Chesapeake Bay program since 1983, serving on Governor Hughes' legislative staff, and for 20 years as Assistant Secretary of Maryland DNR, I've seen the expansion of public access in Maryland. Yet, despite the improvements, public access to Maryland's waterways, the bays, its rivers, its streams, for swimming and fishing and kayaking is still very, very limited. So why should we care? Well, the pandemic, as just mentioned, has really highlighted the demand. Our premier waterfront parks with access frequently fill up during the peak season. People of color and those without a lot of means are particularly underserved by existing waterway access. Research tells us that people take care of what they can experience. This legislation will help guide how to provide more people in more places with opportunities to access the bay and rivers, and will help inspire more people to take care of more places. Public water access is also important from an economic standpoint. Boating and fishing contributed to more than $7 million annually to the economy. Low-cost opportunities to expand the quality and quantity include better or existing uses of lands acquired with public funds, to combine bridge repair with access for efficiency. The 2025 deadline for the Bay Agreement goal is coming. 194 areas were added, only 57 were in Maryland. We hope to advance this through this legislation, which is an important step forward in identifying the needs and opportunities for addressing the lack of adequate waterfront opportunities and improving the quality of life for Maryland citizens. We thank Delegate Henson for the sponsorship and to the committee for considering this, and we ask for your support of this legislation.
Thank you very much. Is Thornell Jones with us? Thornell? Okay, Lisa Arrowsmith?
Speaking.
Okay, welcome to the committee.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Lisa Arrowsmith. I am the chair of the Public Water Access Committee. I thank the committee for this opportunity to speak in support of HB 1267 with 3 recommended amendments. Thank you to Delegate Henson and Senator Elfreth for your leadership and dedication to the urgent issue of public water access. In Anne Arundel County, our LIPR, the state mandated recreation plan, finds public water access the #1 recreational deficiency. That burden falls most heavily on people of limited means and people of color. In a time of heightened awareness of equity issues, public water access needs action now. The Public Water Access Committee is a broad-based group of wet feet activists. We include thousands of sea kayakers, kayak anglers, stand-up paddle boarders, wind sports, trailer boat owners, and the people who just want to find a nice beach and go swimming. We are centered in Anne Arundel County and participate in projects around the Bay. Our motto is all of us or none of us. Anne Arundel County created 10 of the 47 new public water access points in Maryland, tallied by the Bay program from 2013 to 2019. In Arundel County, we made it up as we went along and succeeded through the joint efforts of local government, local nonprofits, and local activists. Although we were successful, it shouldn't have taken so long and it shouldn't have been so hard. 3 recommendations for future statewide success in HB 1267. First, a 6-month final project deadline for the work group. Public water access is an urgent problem and demands an urgent 6-month deadline. Second, DNR creation of a base document with 30 days of all land funded by Program Open Space and the Land and Water Conservation Fund in the hands of federal, state, local governments, and private parties, including nonprofits. Organize it by county and make it freely available for download. Third, Program Open Space enforcement. Put some teeth in Program Open Space. A POS acquisition that is not open to the general public within 1 year is a failure. POS should mandate general public use within 1 year. Again, thank you for this opportunity.
Okay, thank you so much. Annie Richards, I think I see you there.
Yep, I'm here.
Please proceed. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman Barb and members of the community for the committee for the opportunity to testify today in support of House Bill 1267, for which I have also submitted written testimony. My name is Annie Richards, and I am a Chester River keeper at Shore Rivers, a river protection group on Maryland's Eastern Shore with 3,500 members. Our mission is to protect and restore our Eastern Shore waterways through science-based advocacy, restoration, and education. Shore Rivers believes that access to waterways fuel environmental stewardship. Inclusion of diverse communities is essential to the long-term success of our work, and it is a right that is afforded to every citizen. The Eastern Shore's defining characteristic is our rural agrarian nature, making our counties a statewide destination for recreational activities on land and on the water. That same rural character also creates barriers for many local citizens who are without access to personal vehicles and without the option of public transportation systems. On the Chester River, the main stem has over 85 miles of shoreline with only 12 DNR advertised public access points across 2 counties. Of these 12, all but 2 access points are boat launch locations with parking lots. So to access and then utilize those sites, an individual needs a personal vehicle and a boat. For under-resourced communities and individuals, waterfront access on our river is inequitable and exclusive. This is not a concept that's unique to the Eastern Shore. There is only 1 access point for every 12.5 miles of shoreline on the Chesapeake, and the geography and transportation means are certainly not the only barriers for excluded communities. Establishing a work group of diverse stakeholders from around the Bay is a promising and concrete step that the state can take towards further identifying public access inequities and generating a roadmap to resolving them. I'm incredibly energized by the potential outcomes of this bill, and I hope to hear a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you. Jana Davis, I see you there. You can't hide from me.
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Vice Chairman, and members of the committee. I'm Jana Davis, Executive Director of the Chesapeake Bay Trust. The trust role in the bill is to administer the work group that's laid out and oversee its body of work. I think you all know the trust. I've been in front of you a couple times this year. Nonprofit grant-making entity that was established by you all, General Assembly, as a way to get resources to folks on the ground. Really a complement to larger state agencies like DNR and MDE. And the reason the trust is such a strong match for the work outlined in the bill is that our mission really is to get people outdoors and engage in the protection of the area's resources, natural resources. You know, I think Verna said it really well. For natural resources to be improved, we need to get a bigger number and a more diverse array of people engaged with natural resources. And for them to be engaged, they have to know and love the resources. And for that love to happen, they have to have access. And of course, this is about natural resources improving people too. It goes both ways. With COVID, I think a lot of us have been talking about getting outdoors and the connection between the health and the outdoors and natural resources and how that can improve our health. I don't know if anyone here has a secret spot in the woods or a fishing spot, but these secret spots aren't so secret anymore. Visits to parks are skyrocketing. And the science, of course, really supports the connection between health and the outdoors. More and more studies are showing there's a relationship between blood chemistry and heart health and mental health and more. I'm a dorky scientist, so I couldn't help providing references. Some of those are in the testimony, written testimony that you have. You know, there's also this connection with COVID as we're seeing with visitation of parks. People who are healthier can stave off things like COVID better, and getting outdoors and having access to these resources will get people healthy. There's an equity piece here. We know that lower income communities and communities of color have less access to these spots. And we know there's an economic piece too. People that are healthier cost employers and society less. So time outdoors can save money. So many good reasons for this kind of work to happen. You all talked about it at our legislative reception in January. We had this great number of people, 60 legislators sharing their favorite outdoor spots. And I think that supports the notion. So happy to answer questions.
Okay, thank you very much. David Sikorsky.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I'm speaking with my my cover photo up on purpose because there's a good example of the reason that I care so much about the Chesapeake Bay in the future, and that's a giant striped bass that I thankfully released back to the waters for another angler to catch in the future. And in representing CCA Maryland, the Coastal Conservation Association of Maryland, hello, here I am. I want to just read you our mission and our objective. The purpose of CCA Maryland is to advise and educate the public on the conservation of our marine resources. And the objective of CCA is to conserve, promote, and enhance the present and future availability of our coastal resources for the benefit and enjoyment of the general public. All, absolutely everyone. And so I'm really honored to be that CCA is named in this bill. To participate in this opportunity. It's a part of what I do every single day, organizing a membership-based volunteer organization that is included from a local level, a state level, and a national level across our country. I'm honored to have volunteers on our board of directors who actually had a hand in crafting some of the federal legislation, which is providing vital dollars to conservation and to connecting with all that should be able to utilize the resources that belong to all of us. So me too to everything said by my fellow panelists, and thank you very much for the time today.
Okay, thank you very much. Is Thornell Jones, has Thornell Jones joined us? Okay, we'll go to questions. Questions for the sponsor or any of the witnesses?
Thornell Jones is available. I think he was on mute.
Oh, well, we'll wait for him, but Mr. Jones, well, hear you if you don't unmute yourself.
He's having audio issues.
Well, let's go to questions. Any questions? All right, well, that will conclude the public hearing on House Bill 1267. See you on the floor soon. Take care.
Bye.